How's it going, YouTube family? Today we are talking about Ohio backpacking. As most of you all know, Andy and I are located here in Central Ohio. We grew up in Ohio. We've been hiking and backpacking in Ohio for a long time. So I know when we first started backpacking in Ohio, probably 8-9 years ago, it was actually kind of hard to find good resources and like a good aggregate site or something that really put together all of the great backpacking in Ohio. And there's a lot more backpacking than you probably think there is. So today's video, I'm just going to go through, Andy and I have kind of spitballed and we've gone through all the places we've gone to, all the other places we've heard of, and we just want to kind of put together a video going through all of the backpacking options in Ohio. If you're doing any research on backpacking in Ohio, you're going to come across an area called Wayne National Forest, and that is the big national forest we have in Ohio. It's split into 3 different sections. So there's an Athens section, an Ironton section, and a Marietta section. And they're all located about 2 hours from Central Ohio. The first section we'll talk about, the Athens section, has one of the first trails, I think the first trail I ever backpacked on in Ohio, and that's the Wildcat Hollow Trail. The Wildcat Hollow Trail, it's got 2 loops. It's got a like a 15 or 16 mile, more of a overnight loop, and then a 5-mile day hiking loop. We have a video there. We have videos at a lot of these different places. So if you want to know, more in depth about these specific places, I'll try and throw links up. Check out those videos. Wildcat Hollow is cool because it has really good campsites. So most of that trail is in a pine forest, which I love hiking in. And because there's a lot of people that use it, there are a lot of areas for camping. Now, in national forests, you're generally allowed to camp wherever you want, and that's a common theme you'll find in a lot of national forests. And it's the same in Wayne National Forest. So there's a lot of campsites. There's probably almost one every mile, maybe, and most of them are in pine forests, and they have fire rings, and that's definitely a pro to that place. A big con is water availability there. There are not dependable water sources there that I know of. I mean, there's a couple creeks, streams maybe, that depending on the time of the year will be flowing, but definitely a downside of that place is you gotta pack in your own water. Another downside to that place, and a downside to a lot of backpacking places now in Ohio, is there's a lot of people there. And because a lot of the good campsites are located close to the trailhead parking lot, you get a lot of car campers there, which is fine. I mean, everyone should enjoy the outdoors, but there are a lot of people that go there, and a lot of the good campsites are going to be taken by car campers. But if you hike back into the deep sections, 7-8 miles away, there's some really good campsites in pine forests that are really pretty and easy to get to. So check out Wildcat Hollow. Moving south in Wayne National Forest, you get to what they call the Ironton District, and the big backpacking area there is what's called Lake Vesuvius. And Lake Vesuvius is really cool. It's probably one of our, if not our most favorite place to go backpacking in Ohio. It's like a huge 100-acre lake. I think it's massive. And that, like Wildcat Hollow, has a like 16-mile, more of a backpacking overnight loop, and then an 8-mile like day hiking, I think they call their lakeshore or lakefront loop. We've hiked both of them on many different occasions. I will say the lakeshore, lakefront loop is better. I mean, it's more scenic, it's got more campsites. The longer backpacking loop is cool, but it's more of the same stuff you see in Ohio backpacking. Pros to Lake Vesuvius: it's gorgeous. It's really pretty. It's pretty flat. Wildcat Hollow is also pretty flat. And what campsites they do have are really cool, and they have good views. Now, the negatives here are there's not a lot of good campsites. I mean, not like Wildcat Hollow where they're every mile. There may be like 2 or 3 or 4 really good backpacking sites there. Another pro to this place is you don't have to worry about water. There's water everywhere, and not even like lake. We've never even treated water from the lake. There's like tons of creeks and streams you can get water from. There's also like a beach. There's other like recreational things to do there if you're not just going there to backpack. So that's definitely a pro. A con, there are a lot of people there. I mean, just because there's kayaking, canoeing, fishing, swimming, there's a ton of people there, and there's a lot of trash there. Vesuvius in general, I've just noticed there's just a lot of trash, which is kind of sad. Also, it can get pretty buggy, especially in the summer, because there is so much water and so much stagnant water. So I would definitely avoid that place in the summer, versus Wildcat Hollow is fine in the summer. The final section of Wayne National Forest, what they call their Marietta unit or Marietta section, I've never actually been to. So a lot of places we're going to talk about today, Andy and I have never been to, but we know about it. That section of Wayne National Forest contains something called Archer's Loop, or Archer's Fork, sorry. I know Outdoor Adventures has a good video there. He goes there with Meerkat. Check that out. We're definitely planning on going there. We just haven't got around to it, and they've got another good like overnight loop you can check out. Moving away from the national forests, we have the state forests, and I think those might be even more popular than Wayne National Forest. Ohio's got 3 state forests that I know of. We've been to 2 of them. The first one is probably the most popular and most heard of backpacking place in Ohio, at least I think, and that's Zaleski State Forest. It's really close to Central Ohio. It's like an hour drive from here. Zaleski State Forest is pretty cool. It's broken up into 3 loops that are each like 7, 8, 9 miles long. And there's a couple places you can park. Now, with state forests in Ohio, unlike national forests, they really want you to stay at designated camping areas, and there's pros and cons to that. A big pro is they have potable water there, like a tap you can use to get drinking water, which is awesome, and they have a privy. A con is, of course, there's just tons of people there. And we went to Zaleski last April on like, granted it was like the first good weekend for backpacking, and oh my god, like the parking lot was, you couldn't even park. And we stayed on the East Loop at campsite 2, I believe, and there were, no joke, like 30 or 40 tents there, which is freaking crazy. It's cool. I mean, it's cool to see that many people out, but a con to that state forest system is when there's a lot of people out there, they all kind of get concentrated around those campsites. The next state forest we've been to, and this is the one we went to most recently, is Shawnee State Forest, and that's actually located pretty close to Lake Vesuvius down in southern Ohio, right like where Ohio almost meets Kentucky in that area. Shawnee State Forest is split into 2 loops, so there's 40 miles of total hiking there, and there's like a 25-mile-ish southern loop and like a 15-mile-ish north loop. We have only ever hiked the south loop. We did that last November. It's a little bit longer. Unlike Zaleski, there are a lot, I think like 5 or 6 campsites in Shawnee State Forest. So it definitely spreads people out, and in general, not a lot of people go hiking down there. So like we went in November on a beautiful weekend, and we only saw like 1 other person, which was a welcome change of pace from Zaleski. The pros to Shawnee State Forest are you have a lot of hiking trails, a lot of mileage you can do, and a lot of campgrounds to choose from, and it is beautiful. I mean, we went there. If you haven't checked that video out, check it out, if only for the fact that the leaves had just changed color, and we took the drone, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And you hike up to these vistas, and it's beautiful. And I've heard the North Loop is actually prettier than the Southern Loop. Now, major con to that place, it is freaking hilly. Like easily the hilliest backpacking and most elevation I've ever done in Ohio. You know, the South Loop alone is like 5,000 or 6,000 feet of vertical over like 25 miles, so it's super hilly. Another con to that place, and it didn't matter for us because we went in November, is I've heard horror stories about the ticks and how overgrown it gets in the summer. We went early November, and that was a perfect time to go, so I would probably avoid that place in the summer or when it's hot. I've heard that's what you want to do, and I can see tons of ticks, and I can see because it doesn't get a lot of use, it gets pretty overgrown. But that's Shawnee State Forest, and it's actually really cool. So if you liked like Zaleski State Forest, but you want something and maybe a little bit more challenging with less people and better views, check out Shawnee State Forest. There's also Mohican. That's actually north of Columbus. That's a really popular place to go to. They've got 10 of those sites that they call their park and pack sites or something like that, where it's just a short distance, maybe a couple miles at most from the car to your campsite. Well, some of them might be actually further. I've been to Mohican. I've never backpacked there, but Mohican is really cool. It's really pretty, also very popular, also a lot of people. I've heard really good things about the backcountry campsites. I've never been there. I've only hiked there. But that's also a really popular place to go in Ohio is Mohican. One of the newer places actually in Ohio, and they just built this I think in 2016. It's a metro park. It's called Scioto Grove Metro Park, and it's got like 7 to 10 miles of hiking trails, and it's also got 5 backpacking campsites that you can call ahead and reserve. The coolest part about this place is it's literally 11 miles from my house, which is absurd. That's like the closest camping or backpacking like by far. So we're gonna check it out. I think it'll be a good place to bring some beginners, maybe bring our wives there again, because I think like the furthest backpacking site is like maybe 4 or 5 miles from the car, if that. So we're definitely gonna go there and check it out. It's just so close. We gotta see it. If any of you guys have been there, I know it's really new. Let us know if you stayed at those sites and if you liked it. Another really popular place to go in Ohio is you'll hear it called like AEP or AEP Recreation Land. It's a huge, it's like 50 or 60,000 acres that AEP had previously strip mined, and they opened it up to just outdoor recreation, which is really cool on AEP. Andy and I have never been there to backpack. I've been there, never backpacked there. They do have good backpacking, so I've heard. I know some of our subscribers have commented on going there. It also is pretty close to Columbus. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on going there. Another area kind of down by the Wildcat Hollow Trail is Burr Oak State Park. It's a really popular state park, but they do have backpacking there, and they do have a backpacking trail that connects to Wildcat Hollow in some fashion, or so I've read. I've never been to Burr Oak State Park. I've driven past it like a million times, but they do have a backpacking trail there where you can backpack and hit up with Wildcat Hollow. That's also in the Wayne National Forest area. The third state forest in Ohio is called Tar Hollow State Forest. I've never been there, but they have a 21 mile backpacking trail there, and I'm assuming because it's a state forest, they have designated campgrounds you can stay at with water. That seems to be the theme with all the Ohio State Forests, but I've never been there, but I know it exists, so check it out. Lastly, Ohio actually has a national park that I never even heard of, but it's Cuyahoga National Park, and it's actually in like northeast Ohio, like on the way to Cleveland. The vast majority of Ohio backpacking is in southern Ohio. I mean, like almost all of it, because that's where the Hocking Hills are. The terrain's more rugged. It's not as populated, but this is Cuyahoga Valley State National Park, and it's located on the way up to Cleveland. Part of the Buckeye Trail goes through there, and they do have a bunch of primitive campsites that you can rent. Another con, because it's a national park, is you gotta pay to rent those. I think it's like 25 bucks versus national forests, free to go use. But we do have a national park in Ohio, who knew? And it does have backpacking sites you can rent, and it does have trails to hike. I've never been there. If we have any Clevelanders or Northeast Ohio people that have been there, please tell us how it is. All right, everybody, that sums it up for the Ohio Backpacking I Know. Thank you all for watching. Please let us know, comments, anything, any input anyone has in Ohio backpacking, please leave it in the comments. I really want this video to serve as a good summary of Ohio backpacking, so when people are getting into backpacking or people that move to Ohio, they want a good resource to have a good summarized view of all the trails here. Please leave your input in the comments. Thank you all for watching. We're almost done with winter. It's time to get back out there and go backpacking, and we'll catch you all on the next one.